I'd like to start by telling a little bit of my journey into nuclear. I was always really good at math and science, but I wanted to be a high school history teacher. My high school chemistry teacher was pretty disappointed by that since that was my highest mark. And when I attended the University of Waterloo, I was really lucky to be in the co-op program and discovered I didn't want to spend my life with high schoolers and that I was really good at computer programming. This was 1986, so programming was a pretty novel item to major in, but I was fortunate enough to get a job as a TA in that department. And around this time, I thought about switching to math or engineering, but I also wanted to enter the workforce. My dad started out as a mechanic in the nuclear industry, having trained as a machinist when I was 3. I often say nuclear has been feeding me and my family for over 50 years now. He pointed out this opportunity in operations to me, and I wasn't sure about the field work, but the control room looked remarkably interesting. And at the time, I was very into Star Trek: The Next Generation and could imagine myself saying, "Make it so, number one." The truth is, I was either switching majors from arts to math or getting a job, and I was tired of living on macaroni and ketchup and wearing the starving student mantle. So, this opportunity to get paid to learn was very intriguing, and as a result, I've continued to learn every day for over 32 years. In August of 1990, as Alexis said, I started as an operator in training at the Pickering A Station, and in 1995, I moved here to Bruce. I was the first female authorized nuclear operator at Per Se, and then I moved to control room shift supervisor and shift manager. And luckily, I was able to retire last year, and this is the reason I have time now to advocate and speak out about nuclear, women in STEM, diversity, and Indigenous leadership. There were not a lot of women on my shift. One other female operator, control tech, and a woman in the lab. There was no one in the control room or in leadership positions at all. And the construction office we took break-ins was covered in pinups. There were some leaders who clearly said they wanted no women on their unit or crew. And I often was told that I didn't have the height or strength to do the physical work. But I became very creative in climbing pipes, using my body weight or a persuader to operate valves. And as time went on, it became clear that my gender and size was a win when someone needed to go into a condenser water box or a steam drum boiler, and I could fit in and stand up. In 1992, I was a founding member of the Ontario Hydro Native Circle. My father was the first co chair. I went on to chair that circle and later on the Bruce Power Native Circle after the company split into two. Our mandate was to be a forum where the interests of Native employees are reflected and maintained by relationships throughout Ontario Hydro at the time, promoting employment equity principles and recognizing Native distinctness. And today, these circles still exist, called Indigenous circles or Indigenous network, in both companies, and there are solid reconciliation action plan targets and being set and achieved. So this group of people who shared with me similar background stories, and in some cases cousins, was a safe place for all of us to come to as we found our way along our very divergent career paths. When I found myself where I was a minority at the table, whether it was gender related or cultural, I found that I really had an opportunity to advocate. And I looked for those opportunities not just at work, but within my areas of interest and expertise outside of Bruce Power and into Women in Nuclear Canada, as mentioned, the Canadian Nuclear Society, Skills Canada as a tradeswoman, and of course the Native Circles. This gave me the opportunity to really give back in my home community as well, chairing a local women's shelter and working with communities of council and the Indigenous community at large. Someone asked this question in the previous session, so I'm going to speak to it now. Um, the uh, the diversity and change that I've seen over my 32-year career has been quite a change, and there's good reason for that. We need diversity at all tables. It increases production, innovation, and when I started as new operator in 1990, there was no one in the corner office who looked like me. But now I have the opportunity to share Indigenous knowledge as a valued member of the OPG Board of Directors. So, what's awesome about nuclear? Today, nuclear power represents 1/4 of all clean carbon free energy produced around the world. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change suggests we must decarbonize our energy production entirely by the year 2050 to avoid the worst of a climate crisis. And in their 2018 report, they detailed 4 possible ways to decarbonization, and they all included nuclear. The Canadian Electricity Association estimates that to get to net zero carbon by 2050, Canada needs to double or triple our current electricity supply to totally phase out fossil fuels. And scientists estimate that if we replaced all the world's coal and natural gas plants with low carbon nuclear, we would reduce carbon dioxide by 13 billion tons a year, which would turn back our climate crisis clock by 2 decades. When we got rid of coal in Ontario, thanks to nuclear and the restart of the plants at Bruce, we eliminated smog days that were becoming very common in the major cities. And when we are compared to solar and wind, we are much more land efficient. And I haven't even talked about jobs. So when you live in a nuclear community or near a nuclear plant, you have the opportunity to perhaps drive by the parking lot and you will get a sense of the number of high-paying jobs available for thousands of people. You drive by a wind farm or a solar and you do not see the same type of parking lot. I am a fan of renewables, but I think we need to do them all. And I don't see a path to net zero without nuclear involved in the mix. I've been fortunate enough to live most of my life in the Kincardine area and raise my own boys here. And the benefits are not always as obvious to anyone unless you look a little deeper. Clean energy means, as I said, there are no smog days um, anymore in Ontario. High-paying technical jobs means that there are excellent recreation facilities, trails, clubs, as well as a small local college campus. In Kincardine, this also includes beautiful golf courses and a harbor. And that money supports the municipality as a whole and then a whole lot of local businesses outside the nuclear sector. The presence of a major employer means there are also multiple supply and vendor employers that support the plant. This brings more money into town, supporting local businesses, as mentioned, as well as local festivals. Kincardine has both a Scottish festival and a blues festival in July every year, and not-for-profits like the Women's House that I mentioned, community living, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and a 2-unit hospice. Kincardine only has 12,000 people, and to have all of these not-for-profit supported local businesses, being able to stay in business, is really a testament to the plant and the people it brings to town. There's also a real diversity of employees at the plant, so the small community is very multicultural with regular Hindu celebrations, a vibrant pride community, and many options for different foods. Unlike renewable energy, nuclear power employs a large number of people to operate the plants, as well as regulate, engineer, and support them. At the Bruce site, which is currently the world's largest generating station, there exists jobs in everything from engineering to construction. There's paramedics, doctors, communication experts. So anybody who grows up here and wants to come back and work in the nuclear sector can probably find a job in whatever they're interested in. Uh, and as I mentioned, have a look at the parking lots. The safety culture at nuclear plants spills over into the community. Many people who work at the plant volunteer as local firefighters in all of the surrounding communities. They also support local service organizations, volunteer at our local festivals and events, and they bring that safety mindset to the many things they do outside of work. You don't have to look very far in any room to find someone who's qualified in emergency first aid around these local towns. As I mentioned, I live on the traditional territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, and the historic relationship and the power generation legacy with Indigenous communities has significant negative impacts, specifically around hydroelectric development, but also in the construction of nuclear plants. These relationships are being rebuilt at the speed of trust, with common goals of fighting climate change and sharing economic prosperity. I believe that we will get there. Recent examples include Bruce Power's partnership with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation in the distribution of a new isotope called lutetium-177, which is produced in their nuclear reactors online for the treatment of prostate cancer. There are also partnership opportunities in the world of small modular reactors with the Indigenous communities around their footprint, wherever they may be, the Indigenous workforce and skilled trades, construction and operations, and with the national Indigenous community through coalition agreements and expertise. I always like to share a little bit about my leadership style, and as is mentioned in my bio, I try to think about the 7 grandfather teachings in all I do. And overall, as a leader, this starts with accepting every employee as a whole person, including a real respect and understanding of the importance of family and community, making space for our family's wellness and the connection to the land. I would encourage you to look up the 7 grandfather teachings. Uh, they are um, they are easy to use in your daily life, especially as a leader. And they include wisdom, love, respect, bravery, honesty, humility, and truth. I always have always find it quite easy to find an example that demonstrates all of those attributes and traits in my leadership story, and also in my daily decisions on what I want to talk about and what kind of knowledge I want to share. When I was uh, when I think about a lot of people ask me about how to engage with indigenous communities, and I know that sometimes people are worried about saying the wrong thing or asking the wrong question for fear of asking something inappropriate or being offensive, but that only stops the conversation from happening and the learning. So this stalls the progress and development for everyone. I encourage you to start those conversations and learn from them. When a young operator joins the crew, I would always sit them down and tell them to just sit and listen and learn, for the first little while, get the lay of the land, build relationships. And when you start to do that, people start to share their knowledge with you and will really help you become a better operator or a better leader or even a better person. I don't want to go too long because I think there might be some questions, but if not, I will show a few pictures. I would say that, I have a degree in an arts degree, and I started in the field operating valves and checking gauges. And eventually, I was leading a crew of operators, running 4 reactors and producing thousands of megawatts. And here I am today, as mentioned, on multiple boards within and outside the industry. And also, it's really given me the opportunity to give back to my community, the industry, and really be passionate about the things I care about. I think maybe you got a sense of what I'm most passionate about from what I've chosen to talk about this evening. And the industry itself, gave me those opportunities and challenges to stand up for diversity, what I believed in, and stay true to myself. So I encourage you to, spend some time learning a little bit about nuclear, ask a lot of questions, and make sure you start those conversations. Chi miigwech.